This video is brought to you by Against the Flow of Mississippi. Against the Flow of Mississippi is a book about Jake Fayard, a Marine veteran who is unhappy with the political machine running the state of Mississippi. He decides to fight the corruption from the inside. Jake will face more challenges than he ever has and will stand up for what he thinks is right. His notoriously hot temper will push him to the edge of murder, along with his friend and brother Kobe Barhanovich. Together, they will fight the system and give the power back to the citizens of Mississippi. Against the Flow of Mississippi is now available on Amazon. A link to the book will be placed in the description below.
Count time on the compound. All inmates return to bunks. Beyond the Count, Life on the Compound. Brought to you by former Sergeant Allen of the Florida Department of Corrections. On this YouTube channel, I will explain to you the ins and outs and the do's and don'ts of a prison. Hope y'all enjoy. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And if you are a brother or sister correctional officer, y'all remember, be safe, and we never walk alone. All right, y'all. Another episode of Beyond the Count, Life on the Compound. Your host, Anthony Allen. You know, something I want to address. And this is not something that can be addressed by a warden. Can't be addressed by... it can be addressed by a sheriff if you work in that type of facility. But this is something that should be addressed by the public. Folks, I was looking online. All right, I've done corrections in 3 states, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Florida. I'll go ahead and tell you, Florida pays the highest. Florida now is starting out at like $50,000 a year. It's about $23 an hour. So when I started off in corrections in Florida, it was $30,000 a year. The first time I ever applied to be a correctional officer, I was 19 years old. I was living in Lucedale, Mississippi, and I applied at the South Mississippi Correctional Institution up there in Greene County, just outside of Leakesville. And back then, they were paying about $9 an hour, and oh my God, I thought that was excellent money. This is in 2004. I did not get the job. They were not hurting for staff as much as they were, and they had about 90 applicants that were there that day. It was an open house thing, and they only had about 30 or 40 positions. So obviously, if somebody came in more qualified, they got the job. So I didn't get to work for Greene County, but I remember what they were paying back then. Now, I just looked up. I'm going to go through the salaries real quick. I know Louisiana at Rayburn Correctional Center, which is located just north of Bogalusa, Louisiana, they're paying about $15.36 an hour. As of a year ago, that's what I was getting paid. 2 years ago, in 2021. George County, Mississippi, was paying $11.97 an hour for correctional officers. Correctional officers in 2021. I'm looking now and I'm seeing the Hinds County Sheriff's Department, which is in Jackson, Mississippi's most populated county. Also a very dangerous place. If you live in Jackson, you'll know what I mean. They're paying $25.83.33 a month, which translates to taking that, multiplying it by 12, dividing it by 52, and dividing that figure by 40, comes up to $14.90. Say $14.91 if we round up to the nearest penny. So $14.91 an hour. All right. Stone County, I know when I worked there about 6 months ago, and granted, Stone County's a great department. I'm not saying anything bad about it. They're paying $14.75 an hour. Let me see what the Mississippi Department of Corrections is paying, because I'm curious. I know they just got a raise. Okay, MDOC looks like they're paying $17.66 an hour, rounding up to the nearest penny. It says they're paying $36,720.05 annually. Glad they got the raise. They definitely needed it. What I don't understand, and this is just my thinking, why so low? I'm going to look at some other states here. Looks like Tennessee got a raise. I know they were making about 15-something an hour a few years ago. Now they're getting $21.41. So I'm glad to see that the salary is kind of going in the right direction. But I want y'all to think about something here. I've seen people at fast food making $14, $15, $16 an hour sometimes. I've seen correctional officers make nothing. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Corrections is law enforcement. Period. If you say a correctional officer is not a law enforcement officer, newsflash, Bubba, slide into my 511s and take a walk down the block. Take a walk on the compound. Go get spit at and shit at. Go do a cell extraction one time. There's cops on the street that'll say, man, there's no way I could be a correctional officer. I hear that all the time. And I'm not even in corrections anymore. I stand with my brothers and sisters who still put on the uniform and do the job, but I'm not actively in corrections anymore. It's a job. It's a very demanding job. The job of a correctional officer will change your personality. Usually for the worst. I hate to say it. You're dealing with a career to where you're dealing with people who are in the worst possible position that they could be in. They're locked up. They are locked up away from their families. A caged animal, and humans are animals. I'm not calling inmates animals. I'm saying humans in general. We're still animals. All of us. Of some variety. If you cage an animal's going to act different in a cage than an animal will in the wild. Doesn't matter if it's a dog, if it's a cat, if it's a lion, a tiger, a bear, or a human. A caged animal backed into a corner is a very dangerous force to deal with. And correctional officers deal with that every day for an 8 to 12 hour shift every day. Day in and day out. Not every day is going to be bad. But sugar can turn to shit real quick. Granted, there are some departments out there that the requirements to be a correctional officer is have a heartbeat. There are some departments out there that have that because they are so short-handed. Hell, the National Guard here in Florida is in some of the prisons here because they are so short-handed. They're so below critical every day. And it's because they can't keep officers because there's just some things that people are naturally not cut out to deal with. It's not an easy job. It can be an easy job. It can be a hard job. It all depends on a lot of things. Personalities are gonna have conflict. Granted, there are some people that have no business as a CO that are actively a CO. There are dirty officers. There are wardens that are not worthy of the title. There are captains that are not worthy of the title. Majors, colonels, lieutenants, OICs that are not worthy of the title. Sergeants that do not back their officers, that treat their officers like dogs, and the dog's job is to fetch. I'm the sergeant. You're going to do what I tell you to do. I've seen that. I've been the other sergeant that's like, wait a minute now, we don't do things like that. I've had officers as a sergeant that have worked for me, and they're like, well, who the hell are you? And there's just no cooperation. Granted, I do what I can to make sure that I never work with that officer again. You know, I tell the captain, hey, you might want to put this officer somewhere else. If not, this person's going to have a lot more issues than they really want. As a supervisor, I've got no problem putting my pen to work on them. It's my job. I don't like to, but I've had a few find that out. Those of y'all who work down at Everglades CI with me will know exactly who I'm talking about. The few ones that I've had to put that paper on, but I don't like doing it. I will. As an officer, if I get a dirty sergeant or dirty lieutenant, dirty captain, my pen will go to work. Document, document, document. So you add that into the mix, that it's already a dangerous, it's a dangerous job or potentially dangerous job. Now let's throw something else in the mix. Lack of training. I hate to say it. Louisiana and Mississippi, step your game up. I am fortunate that I started my career in the state of Florida with corrections. I am glad that I walked in And the way it worked is your first 120 hours is in the classroom. Well, your first 2 weeks of that is all classroom. The next 2 weeks of that 120 hours is half classroom, half compound. And then they send you to the compound. And when they get done cutting you loose on the compound for about 3 months, then they put you through a 3-month academy. Then you come out of the academy and you have continuing training on top of that. That's Florida standard. And I think that's the proper way to go. I really think the academy should be extended to about 4 or 5 months, because there's a few things that I would like to see them drill on more than they do. Special housing units, security threat groups, classification, and even though DOC had the academy, maybe put more in there about Florida model jail standards. Florida's kind of doing it right. I can't speak for other states because I've never worked there. Louisiana, 3-month academy. I'm sorry, 3-week academy. 2 weeks in the classroom. Your last week is half classroom, half compound. They pin you, they cut you loose. What am I going to teach somebody coming off the street in 3 weeks about how to run the compound? And Louisiana's, granted, I've said this in another video, Louisiana's direct supervision model, which personally I love. I love direct supervision. I think it's the best way to stop things like PREA, gang activity, fights. I think it's the best way to respond to emergencies inside of a dormitory. But after 3 weeks of the academy, it can be very dangerous for a new officer who doesn't have command presence, doesn't know what to expect, could be easily manipulated by inmates. You know, I mean, these are things that people should think about. Mississippi, for George County, all I had to do was watch 19 VHS videos. That was it. 19 VHS videos. And yes, I said VHS. If you don't know what a VHS is, it's a cassette tape. Video cassette. When's the last time anybody's used a VCR? I had to remember to be kind and please rewind. Okay? True story. In fact, some of the people that watched it before me on some of the videos weren't kind and didn't rewind. And it was out-of-date stuff. Some of that stuff they were showing in that video was illegal by federal standards now. Again, thankfully, I came in there with some sense of what I'm doing because I went through training in Florida, which in my opinion has the best that I have personally seen. I don't know what Mississippi Department of Corrections does. I've never worked for MDOC. I work for 2 counties. But I know that to be a certified correctional officer in the state of Mississippi is a 3-week course. And really, what are you going to teach somebody in 3 weeks? What are you going to teach somebody in 3 weeks? The answer, not much. Hell, one of my high liabilities in Florida was 3 weeks, or 2.5 weeks, and that's just one, and there were 3 of them. Firearms was 2.5 weeks. Defensive tactics was 2.5 weeks. First aid CPR was 2.5 weeks. officers the way they deserve to be paid for the job that they're doing, and you'll keep them. And train your officers for the job. That way, hopefully, if you train them, you don't have to worry about, well, I'm sorry, I got caught bringing in dope. I got caught bringing in K2 because nobody taught me about inmate manipulation. I got an excessive force complaint on me that was held up because nobody taught me when all resistance ceases, all force must cease. No, I kept beating the guy in the back of the head because I didn't know any better. I wasn't trained properly. I don't know what Connor v. Graham was. You know, when I was in Louisiana and they were talking about defensive tactics, all 2 days of it, I had to ask the lieutenant that was teaching if he was going to say anything about Connor v. Graham. He looked at me like, huh? What's that? No offense to the guy. Great guy. Good dude. Good kid. Good dude. But that's his lack of training. Nobody taught him that. I do like that Louisiana did focus on the types of strikes and the types of holds and stuff that you could use on an inmate. I do like that. And instruct you how to properly document it. I like that. But at the same time, what are you really teaching somebody in 3 weeks? And at $15.37 an hour? Nobody's going to want to do that job when they can go make $14 an hour at McDonald's. You're getting $1 less and you don't get spit at and shit at. Yeah, there's state benefits involved with it. Yeah, you get state retirement. Louisiana has lasers. Mississippi has PERS. Florida has FRS. But you need to know what you're dealing with. And again, it could be very dangerous without that training. And also with the low pay, and I am not excusing what I'm fixing to say. I do not excuse bad behavior because if crime was a defense, then it would be the occupation of the masses here. But if you pay your officers shitty pay, you're going to get dirty officers. You will get dirty officers. Not all of them, because I'm just not built that way. But some people will fall victim to, man, I got a $500 a month truck payment. I'm only bringing home $800 every 2 weeks. Oh my God, what am I to do with this? Plus, I've got rent, I've got child support, I've got car insurance. Let's face it, y'all. The cost of living has gone up. Again, kudos to Florida. They're at least trying. Took them long enough. But they're at least recognizing, and the cost of living in Florida is much higher than Mississippi and Louisiana. Mississippi kind of recognized that, and I'm not a fan of Burl Cain by any means, but he's done a lot of good things for Mississippi. A little bit too pro-inmate for my liking, but he's done a lot for the officers too. He's recognized that $13 an hour, $12 an hour for a correctional officer is going to get you a bunch of dirty officers. You're going to have a bunch of dirty COs come in there. And, of course, when you have dirty COs, you have a dangerous compound. You have a compound out of control. Well, if you don't pay your officers right, guess what you're fixing to have? A compound out of control with a whole slew of dirty-ass COs that are bringing in contraband, letting gang activity go on unchecked. Hey, CO, turn your head that way for a minute. I need to go handle something over here. Just turn your head. Just turn your head. I don't think so. No, we ain't handling it. I'm going to handle it. I'm going to handle you. Cuff up. You're going to confinement. Criminally charged, and this is another thing that I haven't seen a lot of in Mississippi. I've seen it a few places, but I haven't seen a lot of people get criminally charged. Florida has something that I wish Mississippi had. Florida has the Office of Inspector General. If I was a corrections commissioner in the state of Mississippi, there would be an OIG set up. And the OIG's job would be to bust dirty COs, make them do the perp walk off the compound, and you're going to jail. I know in Florida, if you're dirty, they will prosecute you in most cases. You might cut a deal. You might not. We've got people that are ex-COs sitting in prison in Florida for a long time, years. And you know what? They should be. They should be in prison. Because they were dirty. They put the life of every CO on the compound at risk. They deserve to be incarcerated. I make no apologies for them. I wish them well. I wish them luck. I hope they're safe. But beyond that, I don't care. You've heard me say it before. If you're not a straight up CO, if you're not a straight CO, if you're dirty, when the chickens come home to roost, don't come crying. I don't want to hear it. I love seeing dirty COs getting escorted off the compound in handcuffs. Anyway, I kind of got off on a tangent here. This is what you, the general public watching this video, can do about the low pay that correctional officers receive. Go to your legislature. Go to your state senators, your state representatives, your governor's office, and tell them, hey, you know what? These guys deserve more than they get. These guys deserve to be paid a living wage. A better than living wage, really. Because they go behind the gate every day, vastly outnumbered. Vastly outnumbered. In a place with potentially violent felons. And their nearest officer may or may not be able to respond. It may take 2-3 minutes for enough officers to get there. COs have been killed in the line of duty. There's quite a few of them. More than I care to admit. It is a dangerous job. I would say that being a correctional officer is probably the most dangerous job in law enforcement. And I swear to God, if you say it ain't law enforcement, try it. come work the job. I invite you. Go apply to prison. Y'all think about it. Be safe.